didn't want to particularly be treated by Ramsley, but he was helping somebody else in the family, and he called me over and said, look, I remember now. He said, I can see, we were sitting in the atelier, and there was a big table and they were all eating food around this like banqueting table. And he just said to me, there's an old lady standing behind you. So she's probably your grandmother or a great, an old ancestor. And she's with you all the time. And she looks like you, and she really cares about you and wants you to be well and happy and good for yourself. And so that was lovely. And he said, and he did actually mention there's some things that maybe you can rid yourself of to make your life easier. So I went to lie on the bed, and he came sort of hands-on, as you would a Reiki thing. He touched my chest, touched my stomach, and I think with nervousness I started to giggle. But it's not because I think I'm quite secretive and I don't want, and I feel that Ramsley is he's piercing, not just his eyes, his whole being. You feel like he knows you.
Exactly.
I felt like he knows me. It's like, okay, I'm quite a private person. But at the end, you just have to surrender to that, because he's such a beautiful person, and he did help me. And I just remember laughing, like I said, in this nervous way. And then eventually he just stuck with me and let me get on with my nerves. And then I just felt like, I was purging. I didn't actually throw up, but I felt nauseous. But I started to cry, and then I felt like the tears and just the vocalizing of wailing. It was incredible, and and I will never forget that. I know he was, and I know, he's helped many other people, but he, as I say, doesn't advertise. But somehow, if you have this kind of skill, if you have this energy, people will find you. Because you have to find them to help them, and people will find you because they need your help.
Yeah.
That's his work. That's part of his life. It's his work.
You were there with Dibba as well, right? When.
Yeah.
So, how did that make an impression on you?
Well, because we first met him, this great fun guy in a wheelchair, who was one of the happiest people I've ever met, with his lovely family, and met them in Arb. At the feast, I think, probably. Just got talking to them, and he was just this infectious person, and his wife is the whole family. And, he was there because his parents were born there, but of course he was raised in Australia.
Yeah.
And he's as Australian as you can. He told us the story about how he was in a wheelchair. He was having a barbecue, I guess, many years ago, and the gas cylinder blew up. And he was covered in, really badly damaged, and it's left him in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I believe Ramsley and his wife went to Australia to see him, because Leonardo had mentioned him, and they spent, I don't know how long, but weeks with him. And eventually, and I've seen him, he's come back to visit the old village of his parents. And he has a stick, just in case, but he's not in a wheelchair, and he's walking, and he just can't believe that, this amazing, ordinary looking blokey has done this for him. And it's magical. Yeah, it's wonderful.
And you also told me about experiences that you had in Camino with energetics, because we're talking about something that's energy related here.
Okay, that's nothing
but it's
to do with Ramsley at all. This was somebody else I met, who is a anthropologist and geologist.
Yeah.
And he took me. I met him again with Leonardo. He's very, and he's written books about Atlantis and his belief system. Anyway, he over the years, got to know him, and he said, I'm going to this place, would you like to join me? And I said, could I bring some friends, some also like-minded possible people? And he said, yes, bring everybody. So we took a trip over to Camino, and we walked beyond the lagoon, over the hill and far away. It really was a bit like that. And then in the middle of this field, there was a broken rubble wall, and I'll know it, I know, because I've been there since, but I couldn't give directions where it is. Anyway, so we go over, there's a few scattered trees, and then you enter this, it's not a field, because it's not laid out like a field, it's just, rural, rustic piece of land. And you feel, because I thought, because I'm with this person and these people, because when you can will sensations.
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy to do that too, because it's a good feeling. But anyway, we went there, and he said, go and stand, and there was a spiral that previous people had put there, and you very slowly, with intention, walked this spiral, and you went to the middle and then did whatever you wanted. You just stood still, and it was like recharging your batteries. So it was sort of getting rid of staleness, or you definitely feel like you were like ridding yourself. And then, so everybody in turn took about 10 minutes each doing this, and then we walked somewhere else, and we found some quite interesting symbols in the groundwork that were obviously old, not done in this time, and not recognisable, and some things were. And then we just crossed, and then he said, okay, now this is a different place, and again there was a spiral circuit to it, and this is where I get excited thinking about it now, because so you made yourself to the centre, and I just closed my eyes, opened my arms out, and I could feel being replenished. And one of the other ladies there, who's an Irish lady who's no longer on the island, she didn't, but you could actually see her hovering, leaving the stone, her being, her spirit, if you like.
Did you really?
Yeah. Oh, it was.
How did that work?
It's incredible. I mean, no, it was. She was stood there, and her solid form was there, but there was and she could see that she was high, and she was smiling, and she was. It was amazing. It was like a big light aura around her. It was. Yeah, you have to go. It'll take you there.
Yeah, I hope so. Because we were planning to go, because you're talking about Huber, but you said it's not related to Ramsley, but it is, because he was going completely blind. And Ramsley stopped him from going blind.
I forgot that.
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't forgotten. Well, I had forgotten, actually, yes. Yes, he had, because, Leonardo introduced them.
But the thing is that what's interesting for me is that I verified Ramsley's story, and then I come across Hubert's story, and Hubert's story is about Atlantis, which is why I wanted you to speak about this, because I think that the Atlanteans...
It's all interconnected, isn't it?
Because I think that the Atlanteans were massively aware in their spirituality of the living energy. What's very interesting is that the Germans, the Nazi Germans, were fascinated with this stuff, and they had a secret society called the Ahnenerbe, who collected 160,000 books on this stuff. And they were trying to establish a contact with these antediluvian civilizations, which they believed lived in the Hollow Earth, right? And the big thing for them was this energy that they called vril, but it's the same as what I told you, this Karnava thing, this living energy. And so when I did some research about the elongated skulls and the cut-off mountains, I found that the other places in the world where there's cut-off mountain tops and elongated skulls is Peru. And the culture that has preserved the Inca knowledge is the Keros. Nobody knows where the Incas came from. Their culture, everything like that, there's no details. But they have this Quetzalcoatl, representation.
That's the Mayan.
Yeah, but the Incas.
I think the co-joined.
Yeah.
The Aztecs was something else. Because I did write a thesis in Hong Kong about 35 years ago on the Mayan and the Tzolk'in and everything that goes with it. And I've lost that paper, but I do believe Leonardo has it.
Because there would have been like between. Okay, so on
thing
paper,
you said the word
they're
real.
different cultures. But the thing is that what Hubert has established is that there was a global civilization that spoke Proto-Sanskrit, and so you find these Proto-Sanskrit tablets all over the world.
Yeah.
And so maybe the Inca are the civilization that comes after the civilization.
Many previous before, sure.
But the Anunnaki, what they were trying to do is like piece together this spirituality from all around the world, because they thought that there was different bits and pieces here and there that could be collected. And so that's what I've ended up doing as well.
Okay, and well, we have it today. We have this elitist group that they want to keep the secrets.
Yeah.
I think there's an awareness and there's a knowledge, but they want to keep it closed because otherwise, this free energy to everybody they can't control. They can't, the way we live today, the system where we live, it would interfere with how we live today. So it still exists. These elitist groups have been forevermore, and they've had different names and what have you. But yeah.
I think also that it's dangerous, this energy, because one of the books that I read, The Magus of Java, talks about two guys having a fight and destroying an entire forest, right? And Dragon Ball Z, how you see them throw these.
Well, there's lack of there's lack of understanding, isn't it? And well, it's like you make a cake. You don't put I don't know. You have to get your ingredients and it's balance.
Yeah. But I think that this culture, I've been able to kind of trace it into the Vedic culture, the Taoist culture, and then the Keros culture, and then there's the Aboriginals, but they're a little bit different, right? But these and the Sufis, the Sufis, the Keros, and the Veda culture and the Taoist have a lot in common.
And I think you'll find where there are mine. If you go to South Africa, the ancient San people.
People. There's different tribes, that have
Yeah, and that's where the diamonds. Which is just crystals.
Yeah.
They have and we've made it into this incredible thing that you have to have a diamond ring. But yes, so where there are masses of this crystal, there's got to be their energy is there also. And when we lived in South Africa, we went to a place called Hermanus, and it's where people go to watch the whales coming in. They come in once a year. I think it was October, and we stayed with some friends, and the children were very small, babies, and we walked on this mountain, and it was blinding. There was crystals and we carried, I think Leonardo still carries his in his pocket, but I had mine for a while, and I think I put them in a box somewhere. But yeah, incredible, but you can see that here in Asri.
Uh-huh.
There's a place in Asri behind the, what do they call it, there's a mound anyway, and you can walk up it, and it's jutting out, this calcite, and I've got a big lump of it at home.
Yeah, I've got some that I've had to give away because I can't take it with me to Australia.
Yeah. It's abundant here. It's everywhere. But there's a place I know that is actually, you walk up, you're stepping on it.
And you also mentioned this crystal in art, because we were talking about the odd stuff because we were talking about French talent. Right, so what's your knowledge and understanding of French talent? Because he's quite similar to Ramsley, right?
I would say so, another man at another time. Could be that they're both giants, they're very tall men, but apart from that, I don't think, he was a herbalist. He understood the benefits and the healing properties of leaves and weeds and plants and herbs. And he used to make a poultice and cure people, and people would come to him. And word got out, and then people were coming from outside of the local village, and eventually, people were coming from all over the world to meet this man. But he was a very humble man, apparently, and just wanted to carry on with his work. I don't think he could read or write. I'm not sure about that, but I have a feeling that he wasn't, classically educated. He was a farmer, a local
Yeah.
farmer. But he just knew. We've grown up with our parents and our grandparents, and they say, oh yes, you put nettle on this and you put a potato on that for this and that. But he seemed to have an innate knowledge, I believe, for everything. And I don't know where he had a sense. Maybe if he touched something, I don't know how the senses work.
But what I've heard is that there was Our Lady of Tapinu that spoke to him, and that she spoke to 3 people. And you mentioned this.
Yes, there is. I can't remember her name. The first house you're going to Arb, there was a lady living there. Again, a very simple woman, village woman, and she had a vision. She saw her, and from that they built up Tapinu from a very small chapel into the cathedral, if you like, that it is today.
Yeah. People still feel like the energies.
Yeah. Because there was a physical and proven, sighting.
Yeah.
Everybody welcomed that and could understand that. But I think if you went around telling everybody there were certain areas that if you stand over you can get re-energized and repowered from the stones in the ground, I'm not sure how that would.
And you mentioned a crystal that was located.
Yeah, in Arb. Yeah, and there's a place in Arb, and apparently there's a huge. I haven't seen it. Been told about it, and people who have. Some people.
Who are sensitive, yeah.
Sensitive to it, and have walked in the place and have said, "Wow," and are drawn towards this place, which is buried under the ground. And they all go to the same location. It's a corner of a room as it stands now. But I don't really know anything more about that.
Yeah. But this is kind of part.
But it's interesting, and I'm curious. Yeah.
Because there's so much history here, and I think that there's so much intelligent history.
And I think the island attracts people who are interested in knowing more and wanting to delve and wanting to feel, because it's a very holistic island.
Yeah, and we're all feeding off of each other's stories as well, so you kind of like get this growth element. Yeah,
and you can, just makes you happy walking around here. I mean, my favourite thing about here is the rubble walls. I just love the way.
The what? Which
ones? The rubble walls. These farmers' walls that the olive groves. And I just love the way these stones are stacked and they're that wide, and it just makes me happy.
Yeah, you're really good at like stacking stones. Like there's an art.
Well, they're masons. I mean, this place is a rock. You know, so they're good stonemakers.
Yeah.
Stonemasons. Yeah.
We found a couple of temples that ended up in those walls.
And then there's tragic things like, I suppose, modernisation, people built houses, but when you see the limestone mines and that it's as if it's being sawn off.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a hurting feeling as well.
Yeah. That's
that intrusion. It's being.
I really like the Dwera site because it says something about. For me, it's a mine. I'm not 100% sure, but for me, it's a mine. But I think that the way that it's set up, it says something about the spirituality of those people because it's like you said, it's like feng shui. Because there's this inland sea that's round, but then they've carved the mountaintop round as well, right?
No, that's natural.
No.
You don't think this lagoon is natural? Oh no, sorry, we're not there.
So the Dwera inland sea, yeah. The thing that makes me say that it's not natural is that right next to it there's a mound. And if you look at any mine, you'll find a hole in the ground and a mound next to it. And the reason why I think it's a mine is because they mine so much metal and so much crystal. It's got to come from somewhere, right? And
have you been through the Dwera?
I've explored it in
okay, because you look up at the walls and the colours that looks, you would think that there is an iron ore or a copper there.
Yeah.
There's purple, blues and greens and.
But that was added, right? So basically, what you find in
really,
terms
I find that because you do find it's not just there in other places in the world too, but in Malta they have the grotto, they call it, don't they? And we had Azure Window, of course, which is no longer, and then inside the Inland Sea. Isn't that just You think that was carved out? I thought that was a natural.
Yeah, it was carved out. I'll tell you why. Because the inland sea basically has a hole in it that feeds further down. So before the sea was there, it was. I think that the flood raised sea levels by 160 meters come to mind. I'm not 100% sure. So what I think would have happened
So there would
is
have been land
water,
underneath. Yeah.
the water would have come down, and so in the hole on the inland sea there's metal, right? This orangey stuff is metal coating, right?
It sounds like iron, doesn't it, when it's orangey, when you get
Yes.
rusty coloured.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put it past them to have created stuff that we have no idea about.
Okay.
Right, because I found like metal coating on stones, and so I know how to identify it, and kind of like tallying up all the evidence that I've come across, I can now identify it categorically and say, okay, cool, so that was added. That's not a natural feature. And so in Dwera, there's the metal coating on the outside. There's also crystal coating. So there's also like areas where, so for the crystal coating, what they did is that they put a metal coating and then they put a crystal. And so when you touch it, sometimes it's very smooth, where the crystal is still there. And so that's in the inland sea, but it's also on the outside of the inland sea. Then it's on the opposite side of the valley, where there's this wall that is, or this facade that is completely straight, which makes no sense at all, right? Just the straight facade seems to indicate carving, right? But then once you kind of like go and explore the three valleys, you find that they've actually cut the rock. So they've cut it in like layers, right? In staircase layers, and then there's like massive blocks of stone that are megaliths, which are there, and they've also been worked, but that was the work of giants. It has to be the work of giants.
Well, the Shara.
Yeah, I'll put lights on this a bit.
Gigantea.
Yeah, so one of the things that I kind of like, because Frank had this, because Ramsley had this experience with this priest who was 2 meters 50 high, I looked into the giants as well, right? And so, like, I can't quite relate. So the 2.5 meter high person might have been an Anunnaki, because the Zakariah Sitchin says that they were 3 meters high. But here, we found, like I said to you, we found like some footprints in stone that look like giant footprints. If they are giant footprints, they're 3 times a normal foot, 5 times a normal foot. They're huge.
It goes on Yeti.
But that's the only thing that I can find that would explain those massive stones. You know, there's just too much massive megalithic architecture around.
Yes.
That's
been carved. That's been worked. It's not
very well carved as well. You know.
And
like
precision.
Is just incredible.
Amazing. Have you been to this? You must have been to this place in Shara. It's near where I live, and it's next to where they had leprosy here. It's a leper's graveyard.
Oh no.
Oh, it's around the corner from where I live.
Right.
I'll show you. And there's definitely an altar there, and two, I mean, not like Gigantea, but definitely they're carved, and over the years they've diminished, but you can feel a shape, and there's an old olive tree there, and there are some other stones scattered around there, but of course they're working fields around it. But there's a very special, if you touch it, or if you go with a piece of metal or singing bowl, it resonates on its own.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I can take you there. It's going to get dark soon, but I can take you there.
Yeah, let's go there. I want to check it out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.